Guys, biggest story of the week. Ronan's going to take this one. You got yourself a tall task because this is going to be an interesting one. SOS airdrop happened on Christmas Day, I believe. People were essentially airdropped by Santa or by the SOS team a ton of tokens based on the volume that you were doing and buying on OpenSea. So I'll let Ronan take this away. We'll kind of jump into the SOS airdrop, but this one's huge, man.
Yeah, this is a really big deal. I think some people were like not sure what the hell is going on, and other people are like, just do it. And it's like when tokens drop like this, it really is kind of like a clusterfuck until like it really kind of plays out, right? And you and I were kind of talking a little bit about. I think a good place to kind of start with this is the fact that this is becoming a little more of a regular thing in the space. We've kind of first saw it with Uniswap last year, and being able to drop these tokens to people for using a specific platform or a specific function or website. I think is an interesting way to kind of start a project. Nobody had any clue the OpenDAO was coming. This team kind of put this together. They came up with the distribution model. Obviously, they put together the website and their hopes and dreams, and then they just dropped it in every single wallet that's ever transacted with OpenSea. So, like to do that, you're basically tapping into the exact demographic that you would want to market to. And so it's almost like a really good play when it comes to marketing, right? We talked a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about some other coins that dropped, like Rari, ENS, Botto, things like that, right? And a lot of the times when they first drop, it's kind of like figuring it out. But then over the following weeks, you start to get more information about what the project is, what it's about, what it's trying to do, and I think that that's where you start to see real value. Just over the last few days, I've seen an NFT platform pop up. I've seen the World Token launch today for NFT Worlds. Pranksy
Mm.
set up a World SOS swap on Uni, so you can go in there, swap your SOS tokens for World tokens. I've seen other artists who have started to put out their art and say, "Hey, this is for I'm selling this for SOS." And hold auctions on Twitter. So to see the community be able to take this and run with it and start to create and build around it, I think is where the strengths of the technology really come from, and don't really, it's not something we talk about a lot. Like we don't talk about how I can go and I can build an entire experience around someone else's NFT project. We did a little bit when we talked with the guys from the Galaxy Fight Club. But this is a really good example of how you can have a token, you can have an NFT where the community kind of takes charge and the community starts to build around it and they bring the value, right? Like I think that's something that a lot of us tend to forget, is that not only are we being rewarded for partaking in these ecosystems and kind of interacting with them, but hey, we can almost like take our own destiny. And if we choose to spend time in the community, if we choose to build on these products, we ourselves can kind of shape the value of these assets. So it's really what I think is so unique about the space and the technology that just really doesn't get talked about. And I think this is a really good example on how you can do that, get it out there, get so many people talking about it, right? And then just let it kind of do its thing from there. um, you know, what comes
There's
next, we'll have to see.
I mean, there's so many different intricacies. I have a tweet here from Alexis Ohanian, founder of Reddit here, who kind of talked about it. I mean, the tweets were everywhere. So, I mean, it took over the space. And to your point, Ronan, these airdrops act as marketing tools. If you can somehow get the liquidity into the pool and you don't have this massive sell pressure, which you think would happen when you're dropping, but there were some details that are going to be why that did not happen. First and foremost, if you look at the website, and we'll jump in here, this went again based on volume. So it was a 70% weight on transaction volume and total number of transactions 30% weight. So who's getting the most of this stuff? Is it the people who are transacting 1 ETH, 2 ETH that most likely are going to sell at least some of it? Who's getting the most SOS? It's the whales that don't need to sell. So the most
And you
distribution went to the people that spent the most money. Those people probably added to the liquidity pool. And we saw examples of that. Pranksy was going in. There were the people that received the most got this piece of SOS and then added to the liquidity rewards, which you can see 10% of the full rewards went to LP incentives. So there was some good complex things that happened on why this didn't dump out of the gates, although it's been dumping and growing ever since. I think it's down 14% on 24 hours. But this was such an awesome use case. And last point I'll make, and we'll stay on this and take comments. This was one of the first ones that people have gotten who have gotten into the NFT space in the past 6 months. If you've been here for 2 years, you know about the Uniswap drop. Uniswap was one of the first ones to make this famous. Users of that protocol got a shit ton of tokens based on, again, usage. And, when I'm home for Christmas break, for New Year's, over, this past week, the word I keep using to explain this to people is Web3, Web3, Web3. And this is just another example of how you're rewarded for using Web3. Users are rewarded in Web3. That's the same thing goes for Ben Morrow talking about his project and people that get involved early. It goes for SOS. It goes for Uniswap. It goes for Rari. This whole thing is about rewarding people who use the platform. And most of the time, it's for more than the U.S. government sent to your house for destroying the economy. And I'm not going to get too political here, but you're getting more for using a platform, oftentimes indirectly, than you would be getting in your entire stimulus check. So there's a ton to touch on. I'll look at the comments. What are your thoughts as you continue running?
Yeah, I think that to your point, this is where I hope the newer NFT collectors start to understand the real power of Web3. A lot of them come in and they are here for one of two things, right? They're here because they heard you can make $1 million in a day flipping NFTs, or they're here because they understand and they appreciate digital collectibles. A lot of them aren't really into NFTs because they understand and appreciate Web3. And this was a really good way of kind of getting attention on that, right? Like there was a lot of people asking questions. I answered some questions on Twitter that were general questions about what is an NFT and why is an NFT different from an SOS token, and it had to explain an NFT is non-fungible and an SOS token is fungible. So what does that mean? It means that the NFT is a unique one thing. It doesn't have another thing that equals the exact value. An SOS has the same exact value as one other SOS, right? So it can be used as currency. I think it's just a really good way to onboard more people into the Web3 ecosystem, not just NFTs. And there's no better way than dropping money on Christmas Eve into people's pockets, right? And for those who got it on Christmas Eve and sold it on Christmas Eve, I think it was I could have sold all of it for $2,200, and now it's 5 times that, right?
Yeah.
And so now you're teaching people about how the market works and how it can be affected by different things that take place. So I definitely think this is an excellent teaching moment for a lot of people who are newer to Web3, and obviously a good moment to reward those of us who have been in it and have been transacting a little more than we thought we were, because I was super surprised when I saw that number, how much I transacted with OpenSea in the last year and ETH.
Yeah, and again, this could be volume, right? It's not so much that someone maybe bought. You could buy and sell 1 ETH over and over again and get to 200, 300 ETH and have gotten a very large chunk of SOS. So it's about usage. And there's another point that we'll get to here in a second, but there are a ton of different protocols that haven't launched tokens yet that you can get involved with in one form or another, even maybe interact with one time and receive these airdrops. I'm going to show on my screen really quick, and I'm also going to drop in chat if you have not done this yet. There is no claim, there is no claim date that's in the short term. There is a claim date, I believe June 2022.
22nd.
22nd?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
Mm.
so in June of 2022, you would have had to claim by now. But let me take you through this. I'm going to try to connect my wallet. So you're going to connect wallet over here. I'm going to do that off the screen just in case something funky happens, and then I'll bring it back up. But I'm going to connect my wallet on screen. I will use the MetaMask function. So I've connected my account now. So it says I'm connected. I'll initiate the claim. But before that, I can see what actually is going on here. So you guys actually see what I'm getting in at least one of my wallets here. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the SOS reward. And you basically claim the airdrop. And that's basically it. Like it's that easy. And I'll zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. But so you'll connect in the top right corner. You will then look to estimate your rewards. And you can see that here's all the estimation based on number of transactions and all this stuff. So claim airdrop, bada bing, bada boom, you are basically done. So that's as easy as
Yep.
that if you're
And
looking to actually claim. Go ahead.
yeah, and I was gonna say, just to kind of bring a little more value to the segment, for anyone who's curious about the tax implications, because you are, that is a conversation that a lot of people in the space are having. We're getting towards the end of the year. People are starting to realize they spent a lot of money. They got a lot of free money. What does it mean when you get a token like this? Well, according to my CPA, essentially, if you are able to claim the token, it does not count against your taxes or anything like that, just because you're able to claim it. However, as soon as you do claim it, then it is considered a capital gain. And at that point, you do owe taxes on whatever the coins are worth at the moment that you claim. So for people who claimed right away when it was kind of like at the bottom, you actually tax wise were in a better position, because anyone who claims now is looking at owing taxes on probably 4 to 5 times what it would have been a week ago. However, if you wait until 2022, it's a new year, you can claim, and now it only affects like the new year of taxes. So just a little information. Obviously, do your own research, double check that. That's coming straight from my CPA, but it doesn't mean that your CPA agrees. But it does seem like that's the general consensus, is that as soon as you claim it, you're now having that taxable event, and it's going to be based on whatever the token was trading at that moment.
Yeah, let's have a full tax breakdown episode right now. No, I'm just kidding a little bit, guys. So we are gonna jump off out of SOS. I guess the last question and comment I want to have here, and feel free to drop, whether you claimed, whether you didn't claim, whether you're holding, supply and liquidity. All these questions are great to kind of talk about. But where does the community go from here? Right? Like this, one thing we didn't touch on, I guess, is like the relationship to OpenSea. The whole reason there needed to be an SOS to begin with, and that people can get behind the narrative, is that OpenSea went the Web 2 route, which is they're looking to IPO, not do a token themselves, not do some type of C token or anything like that. They are going to look to IPO, and there's a whole debate to be had amongst that as well, whether one of the biggest Web 3 companies in the space should go the Web 2 route of IPOing instead of launching a token for the community. But what is that relationship? So you're dropping tokens based on volume. Is there any relationship or networking happening between the SOS team and OpenSea? Is there going to be some type of mutual relationship? What is the point of OpenDAO going to be? So I could see some type of, as it says here, support NFT communities. Maybe it's just like a umbrella, we're going to support NFT DAO type of community with all the funds that they've created. But it's an open question right now.
Yeah, I think like that's definitely what will get tossed out to the DAO, is like, where are we going to put the funds that we have and that we have available to kind of use in these grants. And I know one of the things that they spoke about was obviously helping NFT artists, helping different communities, supporting people. They mentioned supporting people who have had issues with like scams and things like that. Not sure how any of these processes or application situations will go. But as far as like what you're talking about with the broader, I think you're going to continue to see the community build around this thing, right? Like over the weekend, like I said, we saw an NFT platform pop up. Just this morning, I actually saw that the OpenDAO team announced that they actually worked out a partnership with, I think it's like shopping.io, which allows you to use your crypto to check out on sites like Amazon, Walmart, and some other ones, right? So you can now literally go to shopping.io, use your SOS as a checkout option. And then if you go back to like their main post about it on the OpenDAO queue, it actually tells you like what sites. I know one of them was Amazon. You can use it on. The other one I think was Walmart. They had two or three that you can use shopping.io on, and you see there. There's I guess I don't remember where it was, but you
Mm-hmm.
can see there that there's tons of partnerships and tons of activity going on within this ecosystem. So I definitely think that when you look at the opportunity we were all given as NFT enthusiasts, this could be your Doge, right? Like this could be our like moment
Mm.
where you get dropped a billion tokens, you sit on it, and now as a member of this community, you start to build and you bring the value to that token yourself and as a community and as a creator. So I don't know, maybe we need to start looking at how we can integrate SOS in some way, right? Like I feel like that's where people are going right now, and that's what brings the true value to any of these projects. Bored Ape took off not only because of like the art was cool. You look at the floor art, we've talked about that a little bit, but it also took off because of the fact that day one, people like Dario were spending 8 hours a day turning out derivatives that
Mm-hmm.
were dope as hell,
It's a
right? Like, so the
really good point.
community jumped in, they take it up on upon themselves, and then they start creating with it. And I think that this definitely happened with SOS. I think that the dip that you see is just it's a natural thing, right? Like people are like, oh, it's not going up, so I'm just going to sell because I'm going to jump into the next shiny thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of people who are going to hold, who are going to sit there, and they're going to start to build, and they're going to say, I'll be damned if I like don't take part in this ecosystem and don't bring value to it. um,
Mm.
a little alpha. I've got a project going with a couple of people in the space that will be totally tied into SOS, and I think it's going to be a really cool experience. Nothing crazy, but I do think that like that's what you do, right? Like you say, this is cool. I see how people are hyping up around it. How can I jump in and what can I contribute? So the first thing I did was hit up a couple of artists and say, "Yo, I got this idea. How can we make this happen?"
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you want to see from your community, and I think that we'll see a lot of that with SOS because so many people were what's the word so many people are tied to it, so many people have exposure. That's the word you like to use. So many people had exposure to the token. So
I think it might be one of the most, to use your term, exposed, although that doesn't seem right in this terminology I want to use, but it might be one of the most widely distributed tokens out there. And to wrap this up, I mean, this is one of the beauties and one of the most, I would say, not what's the term I'm trying to use. It's one of the most beautiful things about Web3 is that you could do anything, and this is an example. People just are experimenting on experimenting on experimenting, and while that can be look daunting to a lot of people from the outside, you can literally do anything. Ronan just sat here and said, I'm thinking about a project that's tying into a project that's dropping an airdrop based on OpenSea usage, and it's just like, it's mind-boggling and it's tiresome and all of these different things, but it's also beautiful and it's also fucking awesome, and there's no industry that's moving at this pace.